Captain Aria Novak stood on the bridge, her dark eyes scanning the viewscreen with a mixture of anticipation and wariness. This deep space exploration mission had taken them further from Earth than any human had ventured before, and the weight of that responsibility sat heavily on her shoulders. "Captain, I'm picking up an anomalous reading," Lieutenant Ravi Patel announced from his station, his fingers flying over the controls. "It's like nothing I've ever seen before." Aria turned, her interest piqued. "On screen, Lieutenant." The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a shimmering distortion in the fabric of space. As they watched, the distortion grew, coalescing into a massive structure that seemed to defy the laws of physics. It was a ship, if it could be called that, a twisting, organic-looking vessel that pulsed with an inner light. "My God," Aria breathed, her heart racing. First contact. The bridge fell silent as the crew stared in awe at the alien vessel. It was easily 3 times the size of the horizon, its surface a swirling pattern of iridescent colors that seemed to shift and change as they watched. "Are they scanning us?" Aria asked, breaking the spell. Ravi shook his head. "No, Captain. I'm not detecting any active scans. But there's something else. A signal, I think. It's unlike anything in our databases." "Can you decode it?" "Working on it now, Captain." As Ravi worked, Aria studied the alien ship. Its design was so far removed from human technology that she couldn't even begin to guess at its capabilities. Were they peaceful explorers like themselves, or did they have more sinister intentions? "I've got it, Captain," Ravi announced. It's an invitation." Aria raised an eyebrow. "An invitation?" "Yes, ma'am. They're inviting us to board their vessel." The bridge erupted in a flurry of whispered conversations. Aria held up a hand, silencing them. "What exactly does the message say, Lieutenant?" Ravi cleared his throat. "Greetings, travelers from afar. We, the Xenorans, welcome you to our corner of the galaxy. We extend an invitation to your leaders to join us aboard our vessel, the Nebula Whisper, for a cultural exchange. We come in peace and look forward to learning about your species." Aria felt a thrill of excitement mixed with apprehension. This was the moment every explorer dreamed of, first contact with an alien civilization. But the risks were enormous. "Opinions?" she asked, looking around at her senior staff. Commander Elena Volkov, her first officer, spoke up. "It could be a trap, Captain. We have no way of verifying their intentions." "True," Aria agreed. "But if we refuse, we could be passing up the greatest opportunity in human history." Dr. Zain Malik, the ship's chronobiologist, leaned forward eagerly. "Captain, the potential scientific knowledge we could gain from this encounter is immeasurable. I strongly recommend we accept." Aria weighed their words carefully, feeling the weight of the decision on her shoulders. Finally, she nodded. "We'll accept, but with precautions. Ravi, send a reply accepting their invitation. Elena, assemble a small away team. Full environmental suits and weapons, just in case." As her crew sprang into action, Aria turned back to the viewscreen, studying the alien vessel. In a few short hours, she would be setting foot on a ship built by beings from another world. The thought was both terrifying and exhilarating. "Captain," Ravi called out, his voice tight with excitement. "They've responded. They're inviting us to their homeworld." Aria's eyes widened. This was beyond anything she had imagined. A visit to an alien planet. The implications were staggering. "Put it on screen," she ordered. The message appeared, accompanied by a star chart showing the location of the Xenoran homeworld. It wasn't far, only a few days' journey at maximum warp. "We are pleased by your acceptance," Aria read aloud. "We invite you to follow us to our homeworld, Xenora Prime, where we can better accommodate your needs and begin a true cultural exchange. Our leaders eagerly await your arrival." The bridge fell silent once more as the crew absorbed the magnitude of this invitation. Aria felt a mix of emotions swirling within her: excitement, fear, curiosity, and a deep sense of responsibility. Whatever happened next would shape the future of humanity's place in the galaxy. "Well," she said, a smile tugging at the corners of her mouth, "it seems we have a new destination. Helm, plot a course to follow the Nebula Whisper. Let's see what wonders Sonora Prime has in store for us." As the Horizon's engines hummed to life, Aria couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the precipice of something monumental. For better or worse, humanity was about to take its first steps into a much larger universe. The US Horizon glided through space alongside the Nebula Whisper, the alien vessel's shimmering form a constant reminder of the momentous journey they had embarked upon. Captain Aria Novak stood in her ready room, gazing out at the stars streaking by, her mind racing with possibilities and potential dangers. A chime at her door broke her reverie. "Enter," she called. Commander Elena Volkov stepped inside, her usually stoic expression tinged with concern. "Captain, we've completed our latest sensor sweep of the Xenarin ship. There's still so much we can't penetrate, but what we can see is incredible." Aria turned to face her first officer. "Go on." "Their propulsion system seems to operate on principles we've only theorized about. And their hull, it's not just a protective shell. It's alive, Captain. The entire ship is a living, breathing organism." The implications of this were staggering. Aria felt a mixture of awe and unease. "Any signs of weapons?" Elena shook her head. "Nothing we can definitively identify as such. But with technology this advanced, anything could be a weapon." Aria nodded, understanding her first officer's caution. "Keep scanning. I want to know everything we can before we reach their homeworld." As Elena left, Aria's thoughts turned to the crew. The initial excitement of first contact had given way to a tense anticipation. Everyone understood the gravity of their situation. They were about to become the first humans to set foot on an alien world. Over the next few days, Aria made a point of speaking with each department, gauging their readiness and addressing concerns. Dr. Zain Malik, the xenobiologist, was practically vibrating with excitement. "Captain, the biological samples they shared with us are revolutionary," he exclaimed during one briefing. "Their cellular structure, their DNA, if we can call it that, it's like nothing we've ever seen. The potential medical applications alone are mind-boggling." Lieutenant Ravi Patel, on the other hand, was more reserved. "Their technology is so far beyond ours, Captain," he admitted. "I've been analyzing their communications protocols, and I'm not even sure I understand the basic principles. It's humbling, to say the least." As they neared Sonora Prime, Aria called a final meeting with her senior staff. "We're about to make history," she began, looking around the table, "but we're also venturing into unknown territory. Our primary mission is diplomatic, but stay alert. We represent all of humanity out here, and our actions could have far-reaching consequences." The mood was solemn as her words sank in. Then, Elena spoke up. "Whatever happens, Captain, we're with you. Humanity's best and brightest, ready to face the unknown." Aria felt a surge of pride. This was why she had chosen this crew: their courage, their curiosity, their unwavering dedication to exploration and discovery. As the meeting concluded, a call came through from the bridge. "Captain, we're approaching Sonora Prime. You're going to want to see this." Aria and her team rushed to the bridge, where the view screen displayed a sight that took their breath away. Sonora Prime was unlike any planet they had ever seen. Its surface was a swirling tapestry of blues, greens, and purples, with no clear distinction between land and sea. Massive structures that looked more like living crystal than buildings rose from the surface, reaching into the upper atmosphere. "It's beautiful," someone whispered, and Aria had to agree. The Nebula Whisper took the lead, guiding them into a high orbit. A moment later, Ravi announced, "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the surface." On screen, Aria ordered, straightening her uniform. The view screen flickered, and they found themselves face to face with their first Xenarin. The alien was vaguely humanoid, with iridescent skin that seemed to ripple with colors. Its eyes were large and multifaceted, reflecting the light like living gemstones. "Greetings, travelers from Earth," the Xenarin spoke, its voice a melodious hum that seemed to resonate in their minds rather than their ears. "I am Zilaura, first emissary of Xenora. We welcome you to our world and look forward to sharing knowledge and culture with your species." Arya stepped forward, her voice steady despite the pounding of her heart. "Greetings, first emissary Zilara. I am Captain Arya Novak of the United Earth Ship Horizon. On behalf of humanity, we thank you for your invitation and look forward to peaceful exchange between our peoples." Zilara's skin rippled with what Arya hoped was pleasure. "We have prepared accommodations for your delegation in our capital city. When you are ready, we will transport you to the surface." As the transmission ended, Arya turned to her crew, seeing her own mix of excitement and apprehension reflected in their eyes. "Well," she said with a smile, "shall we go meet our hosts?" With a final check of their equipment and a deep breath to steady their nerves, Arya and her chosen team prepared to beam down to the surface of Xenora Prime. Whatever awaited them on the alien world, they were ready to face it together, carrying with them the hopes and dreams of all humanity. The sensation of transport was unlike anything Arya and her team had experienced before. Instead of the familiar tingle of their own transporters, they felt enveloped in a warm, pulsating energy. When the sensation faded, they found themselves standing in a vast, open space that defied easy description. The ground beneath their feet seemed to be alive, subtly shifting in patterns of bioluminescent light. Towering structures of living crystals surrounded them, their surfaces constantly changing color and texture. The air was thick with a sweet alien scent that their suits' filters couldn't quite neutralize. "My God," Dr. Zaim Malik whispered, his eyes wide behind his helmet visor. It's beyond anything I could have imagined." Before them stood a group of Xenorans, their iridescent bodies pulsing with welcome. Zilaura, distinguishable by intricate patterns swirling across their skin, stepped forward. "Welcome to Xenora Prime," they hummed, the words resonating in the humans' minds. "Please remove your protective gear. Our atmosphere has been adjusted to suit your physiology." Arya hesitated, then nodded to her team. Slowly, they removed their helmets, taking their first unfiltered breath of alien air. It was sweet and invigorating, filling them with a strange energy. "Thank you for your hospitality," Arya said, her voice steady despite the surreal situation. "We're honored to be here." Zilara's body rippled with what seemed to be pleasure. "Come, we have much to show you." As they followed their hosts through the city, Arya and her team struggled to take in the sheer alienness of their surroundings. The entire city seemed to be one massive, interconnected organism. Buildings grew and shifted, pathways appeared and disappeared, and everywhere there was a sense of vibrant, pulsing life. "Our city is a reflection of our society," Zilara explained as they walked. "Constantly evolving, always in harmony with the needs of our people and our world." Lieutenant Ravi Patel, usually reserved, couldn't contain his curiosity. "How do you control it? The technology required to maintain this level of adaptive infrastructure is, well, it's beyond anything we've even theorized." Zilara's multifaceted eyes sparkled. "What you call technology, we simply call life. Our world, our cities, our ships, all are extensions of ourselves, guided by the collective consciousness of our people." The implications of this were staggering. Arya exchanged a glance with Commander Elena Volkov, seeing her own mix of awe and unease reflected in her first officer's eyes. As they continued their tour, the Xenorans showed them marvels that pushed the boundaries of human understanding. They witnessed instantaneous matter transformation, saw energy being harvested directly from the fabric of space-time, and observed communication that seemed to transcend physical limitations. Throughout it all, Arya couldn't shake a growing sense of unease. The Xenorans were unfailingly polite and seemed genuinely interested in cultural exchange, but there was something off, something they weren't saying. Her suspicions grew when they reached what Zilara called the Hall of Harmony. It was a massive cathedral-like space, its walls alive with swirling patterns that seemed to tell the history of the Xenaran people. "This is where we commemorate our greatest achievements," Zilara explained. "Our journey from a primitive species to masters of matter and energy." As Aria studied the walls, she noticed something strange. The patterns seemed to skip, as if entire sections of history had been erased, and in the more recent depictions, she saw hints of other species, fleeting images of worlds and civilizations that didn't seem to be Xenaran. "What about these?" she asked, pointing to one such image. "Are these other species you've encountered?" For the first time, Zilara seemed hesitant. Their skin flickered with rapid color changes. "Ah, yes, we have interacted with many species in our journey through the stars." The evasion was clear, and Aria felt her unease deepen. She was about to press further when a commotion at the entrance to the hall caught their attention. A group of Xenarans burst in, their bodies pulsing with agitation. They surrounded Zilara, communicating in rapid pulses of light and color that the humans couldn't follow. Zilara turned back to Aria, their composure regained, but a new tension evident in their posture. "I apologize, but an urgent matter requires my attention. Please continue to explore our city. We will reconvene for the formal reception this evening." As the Xenarans hurried away, Aria turned to her team. "Did anyone else find that odd?" Elena nodded, her expression grave. "Very. Captain, I don't like this. They're hiding something." Dr. Malik, however, was still enraptured by their surroundings. "But the scientific knowledge we could gain here, it's unprecedented." Aria understood his excitement, but her instincts were screaming that something was wrong. "We need to be careful. Ravi, can you access any of their information systems?" The lieutenant shook his head. "Their technology is so integrated with their biology, I'm not even sure where to begin." Aria made a decision. "All right, we'll play along for now. But keep your eyes open. There's more going on here than meets the eye, and I intend to find out what it is." As they continued their exploration of the alien city, Aria couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into something far more complex and potentially dangerous than they had anticipated. The marvels of Sonora were undeniable, but what secrets lay beneath its shimmering surface? With the formal reception looming and tensions rising, Aria knew that the next few hours could shape the future of human-Xenaran relations, for better or for worse. As evening approached on Sonora Prime, Aria and her team prepared for the formal reception. The Xenarans had provided them with shimmering garments that seemed to shift and adapt to their bodies, a testament to the aliens' advanced biotechnology. "Remember," Aria briefed her team, "stay alert. Be polite, but observe everything. Something's not right here, and we need to figure out what it is." The reception was held in a vast chamber that seemed to pulse with its own inner light. Xenarans of various ranks and functions mingled with the human delegation, their bodies flickering with colors that Aria suspected conveyed meanings beyond their grasp. As they circulated, Aria noticed Zilara in deep conversation with a group of Xenarans. Their body language, if it could be called that, suggested tension and disagreement. Intrigued, Aria casually made her way closer, straining to catch any bits of their telepathic communication that might leak through. Suddenly, a stray thought hit her like a physical blow. The humans cannot be allowed to leave. Aria stumbled, her mind reeling from the implications. Before she could process what she'd heard, Zilara broke away from the group and approached her. "Captain Novak," they hummed, their tone outwardly pleasant. "I trust you're enjoying the reception." Aria forced a smile, her heart racing. "Yes, thank you. Your hospitality is remarkable." Zilara's skin rippled with what might have been satisfaction. "Excellent. If you'll excuse me, there's a matter I must attend to. Please continue to enjoy yourselves." As Zilara glided away, Aria caught Elena's eye and gave a subtle signal. Her first officer discreetly made her way over. "We need to get out of here," Aria whispered urgently. "I think they're planning to keep us here against our will." Elena's eyes widened. "Are you sure?" No, but I'm not willing to take the risk. We need to find a way to contact the ship and get more information. Just then, Dr. Malik approached, his face flushed with excitement. Captain, you won't believe what I've just learned. The Xenarans have a central database of all their scientific knowledge. It's like their version of a library, but it's a living, telepathic entity. Aria's mind raced. A central database could hold the answers they needed. Where is it? In a chamber beneath the city, but access is restricted to high-ranking Xenarans. Aria made a split-second decision. We need to find a way into that chamber. Malik, create a distraction. Elena, you're with me. As Dr. Malik engaged a group of Xenarans in an animated discussion about xenobiology, Aria and Elena slipped away from the reception. They made their way through the twisting, living corridors of the Xenaran city, relying on Aria's vague sense of the database's location. There, Elena whispered, pointing to a pulsating archway that seemed more heavily guarded than the others. Aria nodded. That has to be it. But how do we get past the guards? As if in answer, an alarm suddenly blared through the city. The guards' bodies flashed with urgent patterns, and they rushed away, leaving the entrance unguarded. What did Malik do? Elena wondered aloud. Let's not waste the opportunity, Aria said, hurrying towards the archway. As they passed through, they found themselves in a vast, dimly lit chamber. At its center was a pulsating, organic structure that could only be the database. Now what? Elena asked. Aria approached the structure cautiously. Maybe if we just think at it. She placed her hand on the warm, living surface and concentrated. Immediately, her mind was flooded with information, centuries of Xenaran history, scientific discoveries, and cosmic exploration. But as she delved deeper, Aria uncovered a terrifying truth. The Xenarans weren't the benevolent, advanced species they appeared to be. They were conquerors, absorbing other civilizations into their collective consciousness, erasing entire cultures in the process. And Earth was their next target. Elena, Aria gasped, pulling her hand away. We need to warn the ship. The Xenarans, they're not here for peaceful exchange. They're planning to assimilate humanity. Before Elena could respond, a familiar voice echoed through the chamber. I'm afraid we can't allow that, Captain Novak. Zilara stepped from the shadows, flanked by several other Xenarans. Their bodies pulsed with dangerous intensity. You've seen too much, Zilara continued, their voice no longer melodious but cold and threatening. But don't worry, soon you'll understand. Soon you'll be one of us. As the Xenarans advanced, Aria and Elena backed away, their minds racing for a way out of this nightmare. They had uncovered the truth, but at what cost? And how could they possibly hope to save humanity from a threat beyond their wildest imaginations? Aria's mind raced as she and Elena backed away from the advancing Xenarans. The chamber's organic walls seemed to pulse with malevolent intent, closing in around them. But Aria hadn't become a starship captain by buckling under pressure. Elena, she whispered, on my signal, run for the exit. I have an idea. Before Elena could respond, Aria lunged towards a central database, pressing both hands against its pulsating surface. The rush of information was overwhelming, but this time, Aria didn't resist. Instead, she'd focused all her mental energy on one thought: chaos. The effect was instantaneous. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of light and sound, the walls writhing as if in pain. The Xenarans, so dependent on their collective consciousness, reeled in confusion. Now, Aria shouted, grabbing Elena's arm and sprinting for the exit. They raced through the twisting corridors of the Xenaran city, which was now in complete disarray. Everywhere, structures were shifting unpredictably, and Xenarans stumbled about in apparent disorientation. What did you do? Elena panted as they ran. Introduced a little human unpredictability into their system, Aria replied grimly. It won't last long. We need to find the others and get back to the ship. As if on cue, They rounded a corner and nearly collided with Dr. Malik and Lieutenant Patel. "Captain," Ravi exclaimed, "the whole city's gone mad." "No time to explain," Arya said. "We need to get out of here, now." As they made their way towards what they hoped was the city's exit, Arya quickly filled them in on what she discovered in the database. "My God," Dr. Malik whispered. "All those achievements, that incredible biotechnology, it was all stolen from other species." Arya nodded grimly. Assimilated, along with the species themselves, and were next on their list. They finally reached the outskirts of the city, where the living structures gave way to a more natural landscape. But their relief was short-lived. In the distance, they could see a group of Xenarans rapidly approaching, their bodies pulsing with angry red light. "Ravi," Arya turned to her communications officer. "Can you reach the ship?" Ravi pulled out his communicator, fiddling with it frantically. "There's some kind of interference. Wait, I think I got something." A burst of static, then a familiar voice came through. "Captain, this is the Horizon. We've lost all contact with you for hours. What's happening down there?" "Emergency beam out," Arya shouted. "4 to transport now." For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. The Xenarans were getting closer, their bodies morphing into more threatening forms. Then, just as the aliens were about to reach them, Arya felt the familiar tingle of the transporter beam. They materialized on the Horizon's transporter pad, gasping and disoriented. Arya wasted no time. "Red alert, shields up. Get us out of here, maximum warp." As the crew rushed to comply, Arya and her team made their way to the bridge. Through the viewscreen, they watched as Sonora Prime receded into the distance, a swirling orb of deceptive beauty. "They'll come after us," Elena said quietly. Arya nodded, her expression grim. "I know, and they won't stop with us. They'll keep coming until they've assimilated every species in the galaxy." For a moment, the bridge was silent as the weight of this revelation sank in. Then Arya straightened, her eyes blazing with determination. "But we have something they don't," she said. "We have diversity, individuality, the very unpredictability that threw their systems into chaos. And we're going to use it." She turned to her crew, seeing the same resolve reflected in their eyes. "We're not just running away. We're going to warn every species we can. We're going to build alliances, share what we've learned about the Xenarans' weaknesses, and then we're going to fight back." As the Horizon streaked through space, carrying with it the hopes of not just humanity, but countless other species yet unaware of the threat, Arya felt a fierce pride in her crew and her species. The Xenarans might have technology beyond their wildest dreams, but humans had something just as powerful, the indomitable spirit of freedom. The battle for the galaxy had begun, and humanity was ready to lead the charge. In the months that followed their harrowing escape from Sonora Prime, the crew of the U.S. Horizon found themselves at the center of a galactic crisis. Arya and her team worked tirelessly, reaching out to every spacefaring civilization they encountered, spreading the word about the Xenaran threat. At first, many species were skeptical. The idea of a civilization capable of assimilating entire cultures seemed too fantastical to be true. But as more reports came in of Xenaran sightings and mysterious disappearances of outlying colonies, the gravity of the situation began to sink in. Arya stood on the bridge of the Horizon, now the flagship of a hastily assembled coalition fleet. Ships of various designs and origins surrounded them, a testament to the diverse alliance they had managed to forge. "Status report," Arya called out, her voice steady despite the tension that filled the air. Lieutenant Ravi Patel responded from his station. "The Xenaran fleet has been detected entering the system, Captain. They'll be within weapons range in 10 minutes. Arya nodded, her mind racing through the battle plans they had meticulously crafted. Open a channel to the fleet. As the faces of various alien commanders appeared on the view screen, Arya felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. These beings had put their trust in humanity, in her, to lead them against an enemy that had seemed unbeatable. "This is Captain Aria Novak," she began, her voice carrying across the vast expanse of space to every ship in the fleet. "The moment we've prepared for is upon us. The Xenorans believe they are invincible, that their ability to assimilate and adapt makes them unstoppable, but they've never faced anything like us before." She paused, looking at each of the alien faces before her. "We are not one species, but many. We don't share a hive mind or a singular purpose. Our strength lies in our differences, in our ability to think and act as individuals while still coming together for a common cause. Today, we fight not just for our own survival, but for the right of every species to exist on its own terms." A chorus of affirmations came from the assembled commanders. Aria allowed herself a small smile before continuing. "Remember the plan. Use your species' unique abilities. Be unpredictable. And above all, don't let them adapt to your tactics. Good luck and Godspeed to us all." As the transmission ended, Aria turned to her crew. "Battle stations. Prepare to engage." The next hours were a blur of intense combat. The Xenoran ships, massive organic constructs that pulsed with eerie light, descended upon the coalition fleet like a swarm of angry hornets. But the Ally forces were ready. Aria watched with pride as the plan unfolded. A group of crystalline ships from the Silicon Collective phased in and out of normal space, confusing the Xenorans' sensors. Vessels from the Zephyr Nomads used their mastery of solar winds to outmaneuver the larger Xenoran ships. And through it all, human ingenuity shone bright, with the Horizon leading daring attack runs that kept the enemy off balance. But the Xenorans were formidable opponents. They began to adapt, their ships morphing to counter the Allies' tactics. For a heart-stopping moment, it seemed like all might be lost. Then, Dr. Zayn Malik's voice came over the comm. "Captain, I've done it." "Done what, Doctor?" Aria asked, ducking as a console nearby exploded from a direct hit. "I've decoded the Xenoran communication frequency. We can broadcast directly into their collective consciousness." Aria's eyes widened as she grasped the implications. "Do it. Broadcast everything. Our history, our cultures, our individuality. Flood their hive mind with diversity." As Dr. Malik worked furiously at his station, Aria opened a channel to the rest of the fleet. "All ships, this is Captain Novak. Prepare to transmit all cultural and historical data on my mark. We're going to overwhelm the Xenoran collective consciousness." Moments later, a massive data stream burst forth from the Allied fleet. The effect on the Xenorans was immediate and dramatic. Their ships began to move erratically, some colliding with each other as the collective minds struggled to process the flood of diverse thoughts and experiences. "It's working," Elena shouted. "Their fleet is in disarray." Aria leaned forward in her chair, her voice ringing with authority. "All ships, press the advantage. Take out their command vessels." The battle that followed was fierce but decisive. Without their unified consciousness to guide them, the Xenoran ships fell one by one to the coordinated attacks of the Alliance. As the last Xenoran vessel exploded in a brilliant flash of light, a cheer went up across the coalition fleet. In the aftermath, as the Allied ships began the process of damage assessment and repair, Aria stood at the viewscreen, gazing out at the stars. The threat was far from over. There were undoubtedly more Xenorans out there, but they had won a crucial victory. "Captain," Elena said softly, coming to stand beside her. "The coalition leaders are hailing us. They want to discuss next steps." Aria nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. "Tell them we'll meet shortly. I think it's time we discussed a more permanent alliance. The galaxy's a big place, and we're stronger together." As she turned to leave the bridge, Aria caught sight of her reflection in the viewscreen. She saw not just herself, but the embodiment of humanity's spirit, curious, resilient, and unbreakable. They had faced an enemy that sought to erase individuality from the galaxy, and they had emerged victorious. The road ahead would be long and fraught with challenges, but Aria knew that as long as they held onto their diversity, their creativity, and their unwavering determination, There was no force in the universe that could stand against them. The age of humanity's leadership in the galactic community had begun, and the stars themselves seemed to shine a little brighter in anticipation of what was to come.